Okay. Hey, everybody.
Good evening.
How's
What's
it
going
going?
on? Hey there.
Tonight we are joined by Ste and Nick from HD Retrovision. Uh, First off, I want to thank you guys for joining us and congratulate you guys on completing your Kickstarter and uh, releasing, selling through all of your cables that you released to the public today. All of your
Yeah, you
additional cables.
how many hours ago was that you so you had sent several weeks ago, a month ago or something, all of the cables to the Kickstarter backers, and today, earlier this afternoon or later in the afternoon, I don't know, you released what you had left from the first batch to be sold to the public. And no surprise, they sold out very fast.
Yeah, so we shipped everything out to the Kickstarter people early June. Took about a week or two to get all that stuff out. And then, we actually didn't release all of the first production order today, which is kind of what I've been reiterating to people to pacify the people that didn't manage to snag one today is when we did the Kickstarter QA, we found a defect on a handful of cables that we told the manufacturer about, and they actually went back and checked every single one, and they wanted to just make sure that that did not happen on future shipments. So it's taking a little longer to get the full shipment. So they sent us a partial shipment, which is what sold out today, and then more will be coming in August.
Okay, so that's not that long of a wait.
No,
and it's going to be a lot more available in August than it was today.
Yeah, it's quite a bit bigger. It's not infinite, but
So did you expect them to sell, like someone said that the Super NES one sold through in like 25 minutes?
I think it was faster. I think the Super NES ones were like 5 minutes.
Jeez.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we've been telling people for a year plus, you might want to wait for HD Retrovision's cables, et cetera, et cetera.
And there's a lot of cool things. I mean, you really did a great job on these. I've been using them for the last couple days, and we will be streaming with them tonight. I noticed both of them have like brightness switches on them.
Yes.
And the brightness switch on the Genesis cable is for Genesis and Master System modes, correct?
Right. The Genesis brightness switch, the two different settings are vastly more different than they are on the Super Nintendo ones because old Master Systems are very weak, their video output, and so that corrects for that.
Okay.
I happen to have cables right here. Maybe I should be showing them.
Yeah, let people see them.
This is this is the end of the Genesis cable here. Let me make this so I can see my webcam. But you've got the Genesis cable here. This is the brightness switch.
And there's a headphone jack on it as well, or it's like a mini headphone jack, so that you can, for like the first version of the Genesis, you can run out of the headphone jack on the Genesis into the cable, and it will integrate the sound that way.
Right, and it simplifies the audio connectivity in general. Like one of the deciding factors, actually putting all the resources in that site, was that even with your different Megatrons, your Sega Megatrons that you could put on your Genesis, different combinations, this simplifies the audio connectivity.
Mm-hmm. What is
You have to deal with different stereo, like hook up from the back of the Sega CD. All you do, if you want stereo, in any situation, you plug from the front of the Genesis into our cable every time. That's how you hook it up. That's it.
Oh, go ahead.
And originally, if I'm not mistaken, you were going to release a separate cable for Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. That was the original plan, but you've got this adapter here that by default is a Genesis 2 cable, which is also compatible with, I think, Genesis 3 and Nomad. Is that right? Is that
and
the size
and the
that those
CDX
use?
and all that stuff?
Right, and
yeah, go ahead.
And so then, you just plug this on and boom, you've got Genesis 1 size, which is also Master System size. And I think it's technically compatible with a number of other things.
But not the Neo Geo.
Not Neo Geo. The pinout is a little different on Neo Geo. Actually, yeah, the adapter was interesting because we have all these calculations, the measurements and calculations for Genesis 1 family consoles, so Master System, and I optimize those into 2 brightness switch settings, and then Genesis 2 and all its different little things, 2 brightness switch settings. And so we decided that there was very little difference in the Genesis 2 brightness switch. That I was able to re-optimize it into one of the other switch settings on the Genesis 1, and so we were able to do that. That allowed us to make the adapter, which made this actually feasible because if we had to order minimum quantities of 3 different cables, we have to take out mortgages.
It's a brilliant workaround to make it so it's compatible with, like, it makes it so you don't have to do an extra cable. Like, it's just
There's also an additional benefit to that is because it's we've already built a mold for that adapter. One of the things we want to do in the future is look into whether we can make similar adapters for Saturn, PlayStation 1, and Neo Geo. So that's going to require a little bit of research, writing software, running things through oscilloscope. But if we decide to go forward, it's a lot easier now that we've already created most of that molding.
Right, and you sent me to test back when I was working on the PlayStation episode, a adapter, a prototype of converting the Genesis cable to PlayStation, and it was kind of funny because we had talked about it. We were saying, maybe we shouldn't include this in the episode because the cables still aren't available yet, and that's one step further from being a product that people can buy. And Steve kind of agreed, yeah, that seems like the smart move. And then there were a bunch of people in the comments saying HD Retrovision is going to release this adapter for the Genesis cables that you can use on a PlayStation 1. I'm like, well, now I wish I'd said it.
Yeah, no, I still think it was the right decision.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, so how are you going to be showing us the game here, Corey?
All right. So we're kind of doing something a little different tonight. I have a capture card in my system that I can capture 240p from. So I'm going to be capturing with the cables going directly into the card and not being upscaled at all. So it gives you kind of a better idea of what it will look like on your
right.
On your
so
TV.
Yes, you can use these in the FrameMeister. It looks very similar to how RGB cables look in the FrameMeister.
Mm-hmm.
But because HD Retrovision is primarily selling them as a means to connect directly to your TV, this is a little bit more representative of what that will look like.
Yeah. But first, I'm going to show what composite looks like. So we can compare it. I'm kind of cheating it a little bit in that the only way I don't have any capture card that will do composite 240p, so I have composite cables running into a DVD recorder, which upscales it to 480p and then sends it to my my capture card. But I think you'll get enough of an idea. So I'm going to switch over right now. Hang on.
Steve, did you want to talk at all about potential FrameMeister profiles or settings for that?
Oh yeah, a lot of people were asking us for FrameMeister stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I asked Firebrand X if he got a chance to do it. He said he was going to try his best.
Does he have a set of cables?
He does. He was a Kickstarter back.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay.
Actually,
So you might.
I think his path down this rabbit hole began with our Kickstarter, and then he saw us on your interview you did, and then he just went down into like that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean he is definitely the master at figuring this stuff out. Like I sent him my Game Boy Player homebrew launcher. I sent him my PSP Go because like I just want those like perfect profiles for those systems. And
I just found it amazing that. So I was talking to him about
Okay,
like
really quick, guys.
pixel
I'm gonna explain really quick, so I don't leave it like sitting on this screen for too long.
Yeah, go for it.
Right now, we're just like looking at a composite input going through my DVD recorder. You know, and some TVs might not even see it unless you upscale to have it like running through a device like a DVD recorder. Might not even
yeah,
see
I
the
used to have
composite
to
signal.
I used to have to run 240p
I did too.
systems through a DVD recorder.
You got to see like
when
a
I
color
was in my
shifting.
early streaming days.
What's kind of interesting is you see this color shifting, and a lot of things, if I'm running it into this capture card through component, like if I have a SCART to component adapter, I get this color shifting, and your cables like don't have any issues with this at all. Sorry about the fireworks. If anybody can hear them, I can't do anything about
They're
it.
going off here too, man.
All right, now I'm going to switch it real quick.
I guess to finish the thought I had earlier. So Firebrand X, he was telling me like all these ways he was calculating pixel counts on the TV, and he was using like rulers and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I usually like put test patterns on the oscilloscope and measure on the oscilloscope, and he tells me like this pixel number. I grab my sheet and I look at my notes, and it's like the exact same pixel number. Like he did it all by eye and his ruler.
Wow.
It's amazing that he's able to do that.
All right, now here's a better look at it.
Yeah.
I get none of that color shifting. You can see. Well, I guess you can see it. That's a fault of the capture card.
Oh, really? That's the PEX HD cap?
Yeah, it only seems to happen with components. I thought it was like gone. I wasn't seeing it on anything, but it happens with everything.
That's weird. Well, maybe later you can put it through the FrameMeister just to show it being stable. I mean, it's not particularly noticeable to me.
No, I mean it's not as noticeable as
I
it was
probably would
before.
have even seen it if you didn't point it out.
I think it's mostly in the flat color areas.
Right. And you know, when I was kind of figuring out what was going on with it, as I read something from Matt Buxton of Video Game Perfection, wrote a thing about the color shifting over component.
For this particular device?
Yeah, just for this capture card.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because when I bought this capture card, like the big thing was like, ooh, it does 240p, and then like shortly after that was when I got the FrameMeister, so I didn't actually do that much 240p stuff with it, so I don't know that much about its native 240p capabilities.
We
also,
actually
that wolf like goes out and like bites people for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's awesome.
This one is more like the first Shinobi game.
Yeah, I mean this looks pretty good to me.
we actually spent a lot of time looking for cheap capture cards that do 240p, and we found one at one point. It's this like external USB device. It works rather well. It just you can't find it anymore because they stopped production on it. And we actually found the factory that makes them, and we explained to them like why we want the old one, and they actually offered to build it again, but you know there's a big minimum order on it. But it was awesome. It actually some of these factories, they're really responsive.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But then we'd have to hope that 3,000 or 5,000 people want to buy capture cards from us.
Yeah.
We're not a capture card company, and we don't want to be able to or be required to provide support for those things in addition. So it's just like not practical.
Hey, who knows? One day you guys might be the American Microsoft.
It's possible.
Somebody in the chat asked about using the NES RGB with the cables. You had done that, right?
Yeah, I have done that, and I don't know if have you tried it, Corey?
I did not try the NES with it.
Yeah, well, technically, I tried the Famicom, not the NES, but it's the same board. And I've tried the N64. I've tried a Super Famicom, and I spent a lot of time yesterday trying to figure out why they worked so well with a PAL GameCube. Because I'm still borrowing a PAL GameCube that I used a little tiny bit for the GameCube episode. And I'm trying to wrap up what I need from it for the Game Boy episode, which that's realistically going to be like late August at the earliest, more likely September. But I need to send it back soon. So wow, this level looks kind of awesome.
I'm jumping off the building. Yeah, I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
it's kind of a cheat where you can
Demolished that boss, by the way. That was awesome.
But yeah, so I'm just gathering a lot of Game Boy material because I'm like, I gotta send some of this stuff back to people, even though the episode is like probably like almost 2 months away. And so I was testing it in the PAL GameCube, which the PAL GameCube does RGB.
Mm-hmm.
And it works like really, really well. Now, obviously, to make it work on one of my TVs, I'm using Homebrew to really only test it with the Game Boy interface, which forces 240p. And, so I haven't tested it with anything else. But, I could, in theory, run 480i on a GameCube game if I force it to play region-free games. But anyway, so I was just testing 240p Game Boy interface. Looked great. The weird thing is I was trying someone else is letting me borrow an official Nintendo GameCube RGB SCART cable. And that also looks great. The HD Retrovision cables look great. What doesn't look great is cables made for Super Nintendo. And the image is like wavy and stuff. And if it's poorly shielded, then there's like a lot of noise in the cable. But even my good shielding cables, like the one I use with my N64, it's still got that waviness. It doesn't have the noise, but it's wavy. I don't know why the HD Retrovision cables have a stable image, even though you design them as Super Nintendo cables. But it just seems like they're so versatile. Whereas as far as I understand it, a GameCube RGB cable for PAL region is technically not supposed to be designed to the same specification as a Super Nintendo cable, which normally works fine with the RGB mod NES or N64, but it doesn't seem to work that well with the GameCube. But your cable seems to work just fine with everything.
Yeah, I think the difference between a GameCube SCART cable and a SNES SCART cable, there's a couple, I think like an extra capacitor or something. But in terms of our cables don't really operate like if you imagine like those SCART component converters, they don't really operate exactly like those. And one of the reasons for that is this whole mess with SCART and where you're jamming components inside of cables and you have to make sure you have the right one, just seems like a giant mess to me. So the whole point of having our cables, or one of the main reasons, was to make it so you don't have to deal with that. And so I had to make the circuit operate if you had certain stuff in the console or not.
Right, because the PAL Super Nintendo is kind of a similar situation where it is the RGB line is designed differently between between NTSC regions and PAL regions, which is unusual as far as I understand. As far as I understand, most systems RGB is designed the same way regardless of region, but Super Nintendo is different. So your
I have
cable
no idea why either, and I wish we could find the engineer and ask them because I really would like to know. I'm sure there's some reason. It might be like a intentional region locking reason.
And all it is, as far as I understand, I've never tried a PAL Super Nintendo cable, but as far as I understand, it's not that it won't work. It's just that it'll look brighter or darker or something like that if you're using the wrong region of cable.
Yes, it's weird because there's NTSC SCART cables, and then there's PAL SCART cables, but the PAL SNES, the later revisions work better, are supposed to be used with like the NTSC SCART cable. It's so bizarre because they changed the video circuit to be universal between them in the later revisions. So PAL and NTSC later on had the same video output circuit. So it's just a big mess, huge mess.
So basically, your cable is designed in such a way where it's like it compensates depending on what kind of system it's plugged into.
Yeah.
It just knows what to do.
Handle. It's designed to handle it because
it's designed to handle the differences. So, I mean, it just goes to show, like, I mean, I've kind of seen a lot of the behind the scenes here because we've exchanged a lot of emails over the past year, asking questions about hardware and stuff, and I know how much work you put into this. I mean, the fact that it
like above and beyond, probably more work than you ever expected to, even when you.
Yeah, the fact that the cables took a long time to happen is not because you were being lazy. I mean, this was like constant, all-nighters, which you really shouldn't do.
I know.
And I mean, you just put an unbelievable amount of thought and research. I mean, I guarantee that, Nintendo and Sega never, the cumulative effort of all of their engineers probably doesn't match what you put into these cables. You probably know more about the output of their systems than anyone at Nintendo or Sega ever did.
Well, maybe. I don't know. They kind of, didn't they have like slave labor back in the day for those employees? So I don't know about that. I don't know if I spent more time than them, but I'm also working full-time day job, and so that kind of
that's always kind of been the one thing that I don't know, maybe kind of made us regret having a company name, was that it kind of disguises the fact that it's just two dudes who work normal jobs and do this in their nights, weekends, and holidays, and it's a lot easier for people to, be mad at a company than it is for them to be mad at individuals. Like when we had delays. But actually, it turned out, I don't think we ever saw anything negative from Kickstarter backers that we didn't deliver on time. I mean, we were less than a year delayed from our expected date, but honestly, our expected delivery date was like kind of pulled out of a hat. We had no idea how to estimate how long things would take, and even how we made them through a contract manufacturer. That was something that didn't develop until a little bit into everything. So
it was actually I'm kind of glad we ended up going down that road. It was actually Arcade Works is the one who referred us to the contract manufacturer we ended up using. So really happy with that, and big shout out to Arcade Works
they've run at least a couple of successful Kickstarters, haven't they? I know they did a Kickstarter for the Blinking Light Win.
Yeah, and I know the engineer, and he's really awesome. So,
you introduced me to him so I could get a Neo Geo Omega from him.
But actually, back to what Tri was saying, we did have a couple backers send us 480i images of, you know, them using our cable. Like one guy from France was using it on his PAL GameCube, and I thought it looked pretty good. Of course, it was still, so I couldn't really see the interlacing effect going on, but I mean, from what he sent, it looked pretty decent. You know, I'm happy that people are experimenting.
And if you're playing it on a good HD TV, you know, that does good de-interlacing, you won't, you know, really see the effect of it anyway.
Right. Oh, you might see more of a lag. That's where de-interlacing introduces more lag.
Right. But the visual look should in theory be pretty strong if it's a good de-interlacing process. Like, you know, that's usually cited as one of the Framemeister's strengths, is that it's very good at de-interlacing 480i.
Yes, it has a really good. There's a company called Marvell. They make high quality scalars, scalar chips, and that's what's in Framemeister. That's what actually, there's an algorithm in that chip that makes edges look really sharp. It's a special sharpening algorithm in there, and that's why Framemeister pixel edges are really sharp.
Huh. Yeah, see, I know nothing about the insides of the Framemeister.
Yeah. It always felt like it was kind of cheap.
Yeah, like on the outside, on the outside at least, you know, it's plastic.
Yeah.
It's got a cover.
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, that's more than some can say, I guess. It's just too bad it's not so hot at 480p.
Do you guys messed around much with the OSSC?
Not yet, but I'm getting to it this week finally. I've messed around with it a little bit. Now, I can try your cables in if you want me to.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Let us know how it works. I mean,
yeah.
Curious how it goes.
I there's just like we've been really overwhelmed lately with the realization.
We have no idea what that's like.
That we're borrowing so many things from so many people, and like a couple of them like kind of need them back soon, but there's like so many facets that we're trying to look into, and we're trying to make sure that we like understand everything we need to know, and that we get all of the footage and all of the direct capture and stuff that we need from these devices before we send them back. And so right now I'm like really focusing on a few Game Boy things, and then I'm going to like really focus, potentially even tomorrow if I finish with the Game Boy stuff, but definitely by like Tuesday I'm going to be like going heavy into the OSSC, and we're also borrowing a DVD-O, and we just got to get this stuff back to people.
Yeah, we've been borrowing stuff, and it's just been we've been doing other we've had other episodes like lined up from before, and we have like other things we just need to get it taken care of because people are asking for things back. And
yeah, so I mean, and we're so thankful to these people who are like letting us use things that otherwise we never would have had an opportunity or expected to have been able to use. But there's just so many devices, and it's just like Corey is like editing like 3 or 4 episodes in a row, purely because I'm basically working on research and materials gathering, because that's taking so much time on its own, even without producing an episode.
Yeah.
So it's it's been crazy, but I feel like after the OSSC episode and after the Game Boy episode, I think we're going to feel like a lot of relief, because like some of the most important stuff that's been on our backlog is finally going to be really taken care of. So
there's always things added to the backlog too at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, does it feel like for you guys, like, does it feel like, is there any sense of relief now, or is it more like you're still busy?
No.
Because we have a conference call with our contract manufacturer every week, and they already want to know what's coming down the pike, right? we haven't quite made that decision yet. It's an important decision to make. Like, we have finite amount of money to spend on whatever we're going to do. You know, you can make another batch of cables, but then you're out of money to maybe make, you know, all these adapters we want to make, or a Dreamcast cable, or get to work on the HDMizer. And so very difficult and very stressful to try to prioritize what we should be working on. The other thing is those things take significantly different levels of effort. Like, if we're going to do an HDMizer, it's going to be pretty much only that for a good chunk of time. It's going to be a lot of work.
And do you think even while doing R&D on that, do you think you'll have you'll still have the money to do new runs of the products you've already created?
Yeah, I mean, it's another part of the equation. You know, we certainly can do another run of those cables, but you know, you spend that money up front, you wait 3 months to get the cables, and then you sell them, and then you have your money back to spend on other things.
Yeah.
So you have to manage your resources smartly. And it's just one of those things that's like behind the scenes that probably nobody gets to see or appreciate, like how much thought has to go into what you're doing when it comes to that kind of thing, especially if you want to make multiple products, which we do. It's tough.
Yeah. So the cables that you've already made, do you foresee just selling those online, which would be the expected route, but do you ever see yourself like trying to distribute those to like retro game stores or anything like that?
Right now, we want to keep it mostly online because we want to have control over compatibility issues. Like we forced everybody who bought cables today to check a box saying that they've already tested their.
That's a great idea.
And so we want to have control over that because we don't want to ship people stuff that's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not good for anybody, right? Like we have to deal with shipping it to them, and then they have to deal with.
I'm going to switch games really quick.
Not working, and then there's one person who misses out, who could have got that cable. So first we wanna do that, and we might move toward maybe going into stores. I think right now I have a friend who's actually just down the street from here. He's one of the video game museum guys. One of the people who opened up the museum. He owns a video game store right here, and we're like giving him like a small batch, like a couple of cables, because he wants to try selling them in the store. So actually, I guess those are the only available cables. So you live in Chicago, Illinois. Cables. Well, he's at the museum right now, so whenever he comes back, I don't know. Maybe he'll put them up for sale. I don't know. Shouldn't even.
So the Mega Man X title screen is a good thing to look at, because we've shown it in videos before, where if you're getting noise that's caused by using a composite video line for sync, sync on composite, you'll get that checkerboarding pattern in the X. Now, you can also, if you're using a SCART cable, if it has like extra shielding, like Retro Console Accessories on eBay offers an upgrade where you can have better shielding if you're in a situation where you're going to have noise. But one of the secrets to the high compatibility with the HD Retrovision cables is Steve explained to me, it is pulling composite video from the system for sync, but you don't get that kind of noise that you typically would see with that kind of sync, and you're not pulling that composite video very far, and you say you're not pulling a heavy current of it, so that's why you don't get the negative issues associated with that. So I mean, it looks very similar to a pure sync signal quality.
Right. It doesn't operate the same way as a typical component or RGB to component converter does.
Right.
And we can take advantage of certain things, and because of that, we can make it, well, we're making it really short, and then we don't have to drive a full video load. So we, like you said, not a lot of current, so there's like no magnetic field that causes the noise to couple into the RGB lines.
Now, I believe that you told me before that Mega Man X was a common game for your testing, because I think that sort of dark purple sky in the first level is a good place to look for noise.
Yes, and I remember when I first got a FrameMeister to check it out. This was like well after I've had a bunch of cable prototypes, and I hooked up the FrameMeister and I hooked up an RGB cable to it, a SCART cable to it, and then I put on my TV and I play this exact level because of the purple sky, just like you mentioned. And I noticed it was flickering a little bit, and I'm like, oh man, this guy sold me a bunk like SCART cable, right? And then I got another one. It was the same thing, and then I'm like, well, what's going on here? I go back and I plug my component cable straight up into the TV, and that was gone. It wasn't there, that type of noise. And so that's when I kind of like, maybe something is up, maybe power issue. And I talked to Firebrand X because he was familiar with the FrameMeister at that point. He said that's just an inherent issue with the FrameMeister.
Yeah. Certain dark shades, you kind of see that noise.
Most time in dark shades, it's just like really like large bodies of color, of solid color.
Right, but it really only shows up to my eye anyway. And if it's a sort of a darker shade, but yeah, you only really notice if it's like a large area of solid color. Like I don't see it on anything unlike the NES, which is obviously a lot of solid color, but it just doesn't have those particular shades that really make it stand out. You know, I don't know if it's just the way that my TV is calibrated.
Oh, I didn't realize it was possible to die in that. I thought I had to die. Whoops.
I'm pretty.
Whoops. I was just like killing myself. Whoops. I thought it was impossible to die against Vile.
No, you could die.
Maybe you have to do
You
something.
could die. You just have to try. You have to try to die.
Yeah.
Because he backs away as he's shooting that like thing at you.
I think we should answer a couple questions from the stream, actually, because somebody just asked if the console the SNES needed to be modded to work with the cable. And yeah, I think someone actually just replied that it's only true for the SNES Mini. And Ste can talk about this more, but the way we've tested our cable with the SNES Mini is actually with a simpler mod than is typically done.
When I first were designing the cables, I designed it such that if you just run the RG and B wires from the output of the video chip to the AV port, it works perfectly. No components needed, no resistors, no amplifiers. And then I'm also looking into if one of the typical mods that's done is it uses resistors, if that can work with the cable as well, so that there's not just an added mod out there, like a specific mod for HD Retrovision cables to make it simpler for people. So that's what
and like for my N64 mod, I've got the so-called simple N64 mod that can be done on only on the earliest N64 systems. Right. It's using a simple, I forget what the board is called, but it's just like a standard board. You can use the same thing in a SNES Mini, as I understand it. You can even use the same thing in a regular SNES if you, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, like in a regular SNES, like you can remove like the center, the vertical bar.
Right.
Yeah. If you want to do a bypass, it's necessary in a SNES to have that video amplifier, which is the TI part.
Yeah.
THS 7314 video amplifier. That is only required for N64 because there is no video driver in there at all. And then also, if you're going to do a bypass, because when you do a bypass, you're bypassing the video driver, you need to add your own. So that's what that amplifier is for.
Right. So that amplifier, or at least I assume that's what it is in my N64. And I tested your prototype cables on that, and when I was borrowing a fantastic N64 that had the Tim Worthington RGB mod on that. If I recall, I'm pretty sure I tested your prototypes in that as well, and it also worked. But that's the same mod Corey has in his N64, and you're going to show that working later.
Right.
And you have tested it, I assume.
Yep.
So, yep.
We actually just recently announced that. So up to this point, we were like, we don't really support modded units because there's so many different ways somebody can mod something.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a big mess to deal with, but we wanted to give people a solution. So we reached out to Wes from Retrofixes.
Oh, okay.
We had him mod one of our consoles, and not only did we test it, I also opened it up to look at the workmanship because it was in a record.
Right.
It was fantastic. And so we just recently partnered with them. We officially support N64.
Your voice keeps on fading out. I don't know why it is audio. You guys hear that too, or is it just me?
Yeah, I hear it too. Steve's audio like dips in and out now and then.
I'm sorry. It's probably this math. I'm at work right now. I'm using.
Anyway, the point is, like, we fully support Retrofixes doing your N64 mod on an NS1. We've tested it. It's great. His workmanship is amazing. So if you want to get it done, we highly recommend you doing it through him.
Yeah. So basically, you're considering Retrofixes like your official. If you get your mod done with Retrofixes, it'll work with our capers.
Yeah.
Is basically what you're saying. Yeah. And he's done a lot of the work on my system. He's probably done more work on my systems than anyone else, I believe. He even fixed fixed a few things with my N64. So so he's done a lot of good stuff for us. So we definitely recommend him.
So I think the other questions I saw were whether the Genesis 1 adapter causes any loss, and the answer to that is no. It's way too short to introduce any loss to the signal. And I think somebody else asked about the extension kit we're selling, which is a 6-foot extension, since our cable is roughly 6 feet. And during the Kickstarter, we had people kind of telling us, hey, can you make this longer? So the answer to that is Steve did a bunch of tests, a few days ago. So we know that you're not going to add a bunch of noise using the extension kit that we're selling. So if you want to pick up something, because 6 feet's not long enough, you can get it through our store and be pretty sure it's not going to mess up your quality.
So is that an extension going on the RCAs or on the system end?
It's the RCA, so our kit comes with a 5 coupler and then a 6-foot additional cable. So we didn't make them; we ordered them in bulk, and so we're selling them at a decent price for people.
I changed my audio a little bit,
Yeah,
so I don't know.
Sounds a lot better actually.
Okay, I ran to the factory and grabbed some headphones from a station I knew I set up myself that had headphones. So I turned off the auto microphone volume.
Oh, that was probably it.
Yeah. So about the extension kit, because I sprinted out to the factory. I kind of just came at the end of that. We're actually trying to look into making our own type of extension thing, but that's kind of early stages, because we think we can make one cheaper using that same cabling. So that cabling in our cable is custom spun for this cable for device.
You mean you mean like the RCAs? They're like actually like coming out of it?
No, the actual 6-foot part.
Oh wow.
The whole cable, the whole cable is custom. Like we got custom shielding, custom specifications, and so that we needed to make sure it performed well because that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone has ever made a cable that has as high standards as you guys.
Yeah, actually, people here might not have seen Kickstarter updates, obviously, but actually in the development of this, the first one they sent us, we rejected, and we told them to add more shielding, or actually do it a little bit differently. So yeah, we had high standards for what we were willing to accept. So, we'd rather give people a high quality product than have gotten it to them artificially earlier. Yeah,
and I mean, it feels like it's a thick, heavy duty cable. It's as thick as, my extra shielding SCARTs, and just the feel of the components, the RCAs, going into the, it feels like just the right fit, because like a lot of RCAs I have, like they're either like kind of tight or they just like fall out like Monoprice's RCAs are like terrible, because or at least some of the ones I have from them are terrible because like they like the cable itself is like really stiff, because like I like this where the RCAs like break out into these thinner cables, because then the slack isn't so tight when like I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, those Monoprice cables that like the RCAs, each RCA is like bundled in this big fat cable,
right?
And there's no slack, and like they just like one cable pulling a bit is going to tug out another cable, and it's terrible.
Yeah, I've had experience with that actually, because we use Monoprice for.
You use them to make prototypes. I feel like.
What's that?
You use them to make prototypes.
No, we actually use them for that extension kit we're selling, because that's the cheapest, affordable, good quality one we could find. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the reasons why we're looking into making our own. And actually, another like fine detail that I think is interesting, that length of where it breaks out into the separate wires is specified, because if it's too short, when you like exactly what you're saying, when you're trying to plug stuff out, if it's too short, you're gonna tug on the other wires. So little details like that are taken into account. And there's actually a lot of back and forth in emails with our manufacturer at weird, like little tiny details, like the arrow on the Genesis 2 plug. The location of that took a long time to settle on, because there's technical reasons on why it needs to be there.
It has to be in the top of it, right?
It has to be a little bit further back because it pops out a little bit, and the hole for the Genesis is pretty small,
right?
And it's recessed. And so if you want to be able to make the clearance into there, you got to have the arrow not be part of that equation. So it's pushed back.
All these little things you would never even think about.
How is the SNES, like the end that actually goes into the system, like is that like just like harvested from existing ones, or is that like actually like molded specific for your cables?
That one wasn't molded specific for our cables, but our factory found a source for them. So they found a company that makes them, intending to make like composite video cables out of them, and they were able to source them and make it for us, like with all the pins intact to get all the signals.
Like, is it just easier? Like, I mean, so there are still like factories out there that manufacture that part, even though Nintendo hasn't used it in a decade. Yeah. There's factories that reverse engineer. They make up 3D model. They prototype it, and then they make tooling for it to mold a bazillion connectors and sell composite cables.
But the thing is, you have to find a factory that's willing to sell you just that part, right?
Ah.
So, and not all of them will do it. You know, back when we were in the initial stages, right after Kickstarter, we were investigating buying kind of these things piecemeal and assembling a cable here. And so what I was doing was staying up till like 2, 3, 4 in the morning and talking to people in China over Skype and showing them like what pieces I wanted to see if they could make it. And some places, you know, they were just like, no, you know, they only sell the whole thing. They're not gonna sell you, you know, the individual pieces.
Wow.
There's just like a ton of like small little things like that behind the scenes that are just really interesting, and
you just had no idea what to expect going.
Yeah, no idea what to expect when we had to start dealing with this stuff. But
what do you feel like was probably the most challenging, unforeseen challenge that you ran across?
Test fixture.
Yeah.
Making the test fixture. That took like at least 6 months of solid engineering work. So in the factory, they get the circuit boards made and assembled, and then it gets overmolded into the cable. Once that happens, that's it. If it's busted, it's trash at that point. So we had to design a device that puts these spring-loaded pins up into certain test points on the circuit board and runs an automated test to make sure everything is working right. And then when that gives it okay, then it gets overmolded. And that was kind of stressful because that relied on me trying my best to do an automated test robust enough such that we didn't get thousands of bad cables and just waste like several $1,000s of money. That it was kind of stressful. When we got the first batch in, like my stomach was churning when I was plugging the first one in, because they could have all been garbage, and it would have all been my fault because I had to design this crazy, like this test fixture is really insane how it's able to even work now. It's
just like a thing you have sitting in your house now.
Yeah, we have 2, and our factory has 2. And when we got the first batch of cables just for Kickstarter backers, me and Nick spent 4 days pretty much like 20 to 22 hours a day just testing cables. We ran them through the test fixture, we ran them into TV, we did some other grounding tests to them, and we had to bag them back up and box them back up, and that took a long time.
Now, the actual circuit boards, did you run across any actual bad ones?
So I only tested circuit boards that I made. The factory probably caught some issues. I didn't really follow up with them and see how many failures they had on the circuit board level, but I'm sure I think they did mention that they had some failures, and they wanted like some more details on the schematic.
Yep.
To fix them, because they need to fix a couple to meet the order quantity.
So is that standard practice to using a test fixture at the factory, or are they just kind of like, whatever, we're making so many of these it doesn't matter? Like,
they required me to build it. They would not build it unless it was, because they know that customers would yell at them and say it's your fault that it's not working. And so
I just saw a really good question scroll by, which was, it's hard to catch these because the thing's scrolling so fast. But somebody asked if we were to make another batch of these cables, is there anything that we would improve upon?
I'd say yes. There's at least one issue that I want to tackle. It's that some TVs are sensitive to something called sync jitter, and it's only on the component input. And we have like a little GIF on our troubleshooting page right now, and I kind of want to write a more detailed article on it, explaining like what it is and how to deal with it. It kind of like looks like the screen is kind of wobbling left and right a little bit, and it's funny because it only happens on the component input. If you took the Y and jammed it into the composite input, it would be perfectly stable. So whatever processing they're doing on certain TVs for component is very sensitive to the sync moving slightly, like within tens of nanoseconds back and forth. And I was going to look into a different method of separating the sync out from composite video that reduces it even further to like maybe in single digits of jitter, of nanoseconds of jitter. So that's one thing I definitely want to improve, because it kind of sucks where that's hard to test for. Like that test procedure we make people run using a composite cable into their component and tricking their TV into component, it wouldn't catch something like this. So
is that an issue mainly on particular manufacturers, or?
I think I've seen it more on Samsungs and LGs. Even though LGs by themselves have really poor 240p compatibility.
Yeah. Well, Samsung usually does really good, and I haven't tried your final cables directly into my TV, but I tried the prototypes directly into my TV, and there was no issue like that. Mine's a Samsung.
Yeah, and there could be a factor of the console you're using too, right?
Yes.
So, there's enough variations that it's almost impossible to know ahead of time.
So it's a relatively relatively isolated issue that not a lot of people are going to experience, but it's there. It's something.
Yeah, we had a few of our Kickstarter backers message us about it, and but it was small. And like I said, one of them, I think the problem was like really bad with, and it was like SNES, it was bad, but then with Genesis, no issue, or maybe it was vice versa. Maybe Steve remembers.
I think it was vice versa. I think SNES was okay and Genesis had an issue.
I wonder if another model of Genesis would be fine.
Yeah, it very well could be.
Because there's so many Genesis. I mean, even within the Model 1, Model 2 hierarchy, there's just so many models of each. I mean, you probably know a lot more than I do, but I'm under the impression that there are more variations of Genesis and Mega Drive than there are of Super Nintendo.
There are, but the changes in the video, at least what we have to deal with the RGB, isn't too much. So yeah, it's goofy, but yeah, it's definitely something. The sync jitter issue, we definitely think is worth investigating further to try to prevent it from happening on the really picky TVs, and yeah, we'll definitely need to look into that.
Now something that a phrase that's come up in a lot of our conversations that has never quite sunk into my head, or I've never made full sense of this. When you talk about video timings and stuff like that, you're just talking about some nanoseconds of something is off, and like in my mind, I just have a hard time processing, like, okay, something is like off by nanoseconds, or the timing of something is off. But when I'm thinking of timing, I'm thinking of when something is moving, I'm going to see the error because something is behind something else. But you still see those errors even on a static screen. So the does that make sense? Like why that's like confusing to me, that
the timing, a lot of what I think we're referring to is the signal that's telling the TV where to draw stuff.
Where to draw. See, in my mind, I'm seeing it's drawn in the wrong spot, but you're telling me that it's a timing issue, which, so right, that Does that make
I know
sense?
the timing things makes it sound more like almost like a lag type of thing.
Right, because I remember when
right.
Steve was when I was testing out some PlayStation related capacitor stuff. Steve made this little mini test fixture so that we could investigate. The effect of different capacitor values on the PlayStation video signal. And he was saying something about timing errors. Well, the way that I saw the error manifest is this sort of bright white at the top of the screen. And to me, that's not timing. That's just something weird at the top of the screen. I thought when he was saying that there was a timing issue, I thought I was going to see like the red color was going to lag behind the rest of the picture, or there was going to be some sort of blur or something to do with motion, not something that to my eye was static. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like this analog video stuff is really hard to get a grip on. So I totally understand. It's just like the thing about when you put capacitors in series with video is it makes makes your black level change based on the signal content. And so if you change really fast from one type of color to the next, then you've got distortion, so it's. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
It was time-based distortion.
It was. I think I called it time.
That was not at all like what was actually happening. Was not at all what I expected. Just because I thought that time would be an apparent factor, but it's only a factor on paper, I guess, maybe. It's a weird way to think about it because analog video is one continuous stream of a line, and then it gets pieced into something that's a square. So, I don't know. I can't think of a better way to explain it's weird stuff. Like analog, analog video just seems like so amazingly complicated. It's like amazing that it actually happened.
It's amazing. Like when I think of like the composite video, I mean, we think it's crap. Like it looks like garbage, but it's kind of amazing that they were able to cram all that information into one signal.
Everything goes into one signal, and it is acceptable.
Yeah. So actually, we last year at Retro World Expo, we gave a talk, and we started from RGB, and we showed how you get down to composite, and of course we didn't go into like super technical detail, but if you go to the blog section of our website, you can see that talk, and we do show some kind of basic block diagrams of what's actually going on, of like how the color gets merged together into a single signal, and now you all of a sudden have S video, and then all of a sudden you do a little trickery to get the brightness and color merged to get a single composite signal. And then it's actually even RF's even crazier because you're jamming, you're shifting audio into that signal somewhere on the frequency spectrum too. And that's why, I mean, RF looks terrible because of that, because you have to do a bunch of throwing away information both on the video and audio side to make it fit all together in there. So it's pretty crazy.
What would happen if you took like a series of Y adapters and put it on every single end of a component cable to go into one RCA? Like that doesn't literally make composite. Like what would that look like? That wouldn't be composite video, but what would it look like?
A mess.
Probably nothing, right?
You'll probably get you probably see at least stuff that's happening, but the color, like you probably wouldn't get any color. It would all be black and white, and it would be messed up black and white if you did that. Because the way color is encoded in composite video is completely different in how color is encoded in component video.
Right. So it's a whole, every single video signal that has to be encoded from a console requires a whole different process.
Right, to get down into composite video?
Right. Well, like for example, like the N64, well, okay. The N64 creates RGB video, but on an unmodded system, that RGB never goes anywhere. It just gets turned into composite NES video. But like the NES, as far as I understand, the NES it doesn't even know what RGB is.
The NES generates stuff directly in composite video form. It's just easier to generate black and white and phase shifts for color to generate the color you want, because you only have 64 colors or something in an NES, and so that's why it was so difficult to get correct RGB palettes, because they didn't exist.
Right.
And so there were some approximations to it, and then of course Firebrand X, whose eyes are impeccable, is able to create one completely subjectively that matches it almost perfectly. And I remember at one point I was helping him, I put a composite video on a vector scope and calculated, decoded it with math to try to get the RGB that you get as a result of that. And I never really finished. And I apologized to him, because I was so busy. There's no way I could finish doing this right now. And he's like, "Don't worry about it. I think I got it." Anyway, and so, it's NES. Yeah, it doesn't directly generate RGB.
So I don't even know that much about how HD TVs, or I don't know how much about what all is going on behind an LCD TV when it's sent a digital signal. But I imagine it just can't be anywhere near as fascinating as analog video systems. Technically what we've got now is better, but it's just analog video is just interesting.
I think it's interesting.
There's interesting stuff going on in digital too. I mean, it's just it's a completely different world. I mean, the best example I can give with digital video is the iPhone, right? Or any smartphone. I mean, this little thing can generate an incredible picture now.
Yeah.
And that's all thanks to digital. Analog never would have been able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that you've got this thin screen, very little space behind it, and yet there is something that tells all, whatever the resolution is, 1080, 1920 by 1080 worth of pixels, whatever multiplied that is. Every single one of those pixels has something that is telling it what it is. And it's a miracle that, not dead pixels aren't on everything.
Right. That's true. That is a miracle.
But then you think of analog, and it's just amazing that they thought of okay, instead of point, we're just going to draw whole rows at a time and draw them again and again and again and again really, really fast. It's
I think even LCDs, they have a structure where they're shifting stuff into those separate pixels from one side. So it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
you
sure
you can't address every pixel randomly. So if you think of RAM, random access memory, you could access any memory whenever you want. You can't do that on an LCD because that's really impractical. So you have some way to just get certain batches of pixels, and you shift stuff into it and out of it. Kind of similar to analog video.
Well, I guess it's kind of similar to how graphics processing works, because in modern game graphics, if the computer or console can't draw a full frame, typically I prefer VSync to be engaged. I don't want to see that screen tearing. But if the developer or if you're playing on a PC game, you choose to have that VSync box unchecked, then if it can't draw the full frame, then it only draws a partial frame, and it's a horizontal tear. It's not just like some random jagged. It's not like it drew like part of the next line or something. It just it cuts off at the line, and so that's why you have that horizontal tear. So they I guess they still in some fashion deal with horizontal. Graphics are in chunks of horizontalness, horizontal stuff.
I had to deal with that problem with that DS thing. I think I showed that to you.
Oh, yeah. So
I had to deal with that problem where you have to buffer a full frame of video before you push it out. Because if you don't do that, then you reach a point somewhere on the vertical part of the picture where you're pushing out half of the previous frame and half of the current frame. And then that's where you get that tear from.
Now, so to explain that, Ste showed us a thing. Well, he didn't actually show us the physical thing, but showed us some pictures and some video that he captured. Like you upload like a Contra 4 review to YouTube or something, right?
Oh, right. Well, this is going to drive people crazy if they hear it. They're going to be like, they want it.
Yeah, don't do it.
So Ste made this video output thing for DS, like just as like you did as like a school project, right?
Yeah, that was my senior design project.
But the thing is, it's like on this huge board, and the cable that comes from the DS is actually like really, really short, and it's
modded into it's like cut into the screen. It comes out of the back of the flip top, right? The wires.
The wires go into where the DS motherboard is, and the wires are soldered onto the DS motherboard.
So, like, I mean, that's crazy. So, I mean, you made actual video output for the DS, and like, there are video capture mods available for DS and 3DS, but they are USB. They are literally just capture modules. They are not video output modules, which, I mean, so many of us would just kill to have actual video output, analog or digital, from a DS or 3DS, not just some sort of capture interface. And now I know you said that what you had designed all those years back, was never something that you imagined could be shrunk down.
Well, not can't be shrunk down, but I never thought something like that, where a product where you sell a board that needs to be modded and installed into something just seems so impractical to me that like no one would want it. And then now I'm looking at NES RGB, and I'm looking at the Ultra HDMI and the NES HDMI, and it's like, wow, I guess people really do want to deal with having to hack up their units to get something to work. But yeah, I mean,
do you have any idea why no one is making video output for DS and 3DS? They're making capture. Like, why not video? I want video, because then that way I can do what I want with it,
That's actually the whole reason behind that project, was like, I'm going to make video output, and then you could use it to display on your TV because you want to play on a big TV, or you want people to watch you play, like you want to share your screen with everyone. And if you wanted to, you could capture with it because it's just a standard video output.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like so much more flexibility.
Right, that was like kind of that's the thing we don't like about the current form of DS and 3DS capture.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't tried yet. I'm intending, before the Game Boy episode, I'm intending to get a DS capture module, because just
maybe
to show how
these instead. maybe. No.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather have one. I would rather have one of these things, but I also don't want this giant box with a wire that's like a few inches long. Connect like there's no practical way to play it.
I
If you
remember
move a resistor, you're screwed.
I remember that when we were at the because senior design is kind of in school. You have something kind of like a science fair, like at the end of the semester, where you show your stuff and your judges come by and look at your stuff and ask you about everything about it. And there were people who were hogging the station. I had to like kick them off because they're sitting down 20 minutes playing DS, and I'm like, there's people waiting. They want to try it out.
Like, so what kind of video output was it?
It was a VGA connector that can output VGA, a 640 by 480 VGA, or if you flip the switch, it would output the component 480p out of the same port. You would just put a VGA to component cable.
That's nuts. And was it like pretty sharp?
Yeah, I thought it looked really good. I mean,
based on the pictures, it looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nick recently posted some photos that I took because I think Mike wanted to see it.
Yeah, they're on Twitter. If people are curious, you can go. I linked to the video, which is private on YouTube because I don't really want to deal with that video getting out to huge audience. But
that's good, Jason. I'll be demonstrating a Master System game after this.
Our YouTube, or on our Twitter, I mean.
But I thought one of the most interesting things that happened during that project was because I put two screens on top of each other and on a single screen, and there's a physical gap between the screens. And Contra 4 is my favorite game for DS. I emailed Way Forward. And I asked them, I was curious, I'm making this project, I'm curious to know what the gap width is. And I get a response from Matt Bosin, the creator of the game.
Oh, yeah, I'm a big fan.
Detailed explanation. He's like, interesting you asked that question because it was, it actually took a lot of time to settle on a final number. And he tells me like that he got programmers to make a special build of the game that had the L and R buttons adjust the gap size, and he settled on 48 pixels because that was the size where your guys didn't get lost in the gap on the waterfall stage. Any stage where there's vertical movement, you didn't want to get stuck in a spot where you couldn't even see a portion of your character. And he's like, normally for most games, because they'd make a lot of DS games, they use 64 pixels, but for that game, they used 48 pixels. And that's what I'm
gonna switch games.
That seems like a really big gap. Like, it's a lot more than I thought.
Actually, if you measure the gaps between the screen using a ruler and do like a ratio with how tall the screens are, that's their pixel count, it comes down to like 90 something pixels.
Wow, that's definitely a lot more than I would have thought.
Yes, but I guess because the top screen can tilt forward a little bit, and some other differences, that 64 seems the more natural way when you're actually doing stuff.
Wow, yeah, that's just that's awesome that he actually I mean, he seems really cool because he talks to people on Twitter really easily and stuff. So that's awesome. But yeah, Contra 4 is probably my favorite game on the DS too. I mean, it's up there, yeah. It's so freaking good. It's I think it's the best Contra game. It's just I'm a really big fan of Way Forward. I love their style of game. I think of them as the American treasure.
So someone about 10 minutes ago asked us if there were any 4K TVs that we recommended for retro gaming.
I'd be interested in that too.
I think Bob from Retro RGB had Wes from Second Opinion Games on, and he said he found a really nice Sony 4K TV that worked really well with any type of input, component directly from the HD Retrovision cables or HDMI from the FrameMeister. It had very little lag. That was one of his criteria when he was going around looking for it. I don't remember the exact model, though. I can try looking it up.
Yeah, see, I always keep saying that I'm trying to wait until OLED goes down in price before I buy a 4K TV. But like, it's like, oh, like I really, like I just want to see how like all of my equipment runs on one. I'm just like, I'm curious. I just want to see how it is now, you know?
Yeah,
Like
it seems like it's a better purchase for retro games because of the integer thing than it actually is for watching movies. So I have a big 65-inch 4K TV, and you have to be pretty close to tell the difference between a 4K and 1080.
Yeah, like Blu-ray movies like look so good at 1080p. Like I have a hard time imagining like
the human eye is so shitty that it can't, you know, the pixels are too packed in there for it to make a difference. Actually, the best thing about the new TVs is like the HDR modes that they have, like the color.
Right.
Much bigger deal than the actual resolution.
Yeah. But it's like it's the integer scale. Like it's funny that like that 1080i and 480i and 480p, you know, like the standard resolution for years and years and years is the odd man out on 4K. Like there's no integer scale for it, but there is for 240p, there is for 720p, there is for 1080p. It's like awesome.
Well, the next doubling of resolution we get 10 years from now, then I think we'll be able to do 480 straight in.
Everything will fit in, right? Is double 4K? Is that integer scales for everything?
I think so.
That would be
stupid. I'm too stupid to do it in my head.
Once we get to that point, we should just stop, I think.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Of course, if you get to that point, then I guess double everything, there wouldn't be anything weird. Because it's just because we decide for whatever reason to do some, 1.5 jumps instead of 2x jumps.
Yeah. It could happen. I don't know what the marketers will come up with. But I got to say, the terming it 4K is a brilliant marketing strategy because from 1080p to 4K, you think it's 4 times. Like that's kind of like the intent from a marketing perspective. But it's
the other funny thing about it, and I don't know why HD was always marketed with the smaller number. Well, probably because like we were saying earlier, like a lot of things are still using the horizontal is the.
Yeah, I think it's an artifact of analog being reported in lines.
How many horizontal lines are drawn. But if you think about it, it's funny because doesn't 1280p sound a lot more impressive than 720p? or 1980. So now we've shifted to advertising the big number, and we're actually rounding up a little bit.
Yeah.
So from a marketing standpoint, we're really cheating it now, but it does make more sense to use the more impressive sounding number.
Yeah. Agreed.
But, I mean, there's not that much reason to go up from here unless people are going to start having, 120-inch TVs in their house. Because, at a normal size from a typical viewing distance, none of this makes any difference to your eyeballs. It's pointless. There's other things, other technologies that are more important for them to develop than, number of pixels they can cram on a TV.
Yeah. But yeah, we were saying at Too Many Games that we should Like if one of us gets a 4K TV, like we could make a whole episode about gaming on 4K TV, and
I think
it
a lot of
wouldn't
people be really
you
interested
know,
in
it
that.
wouldn't be the typical thing, which is, well, what kind of, PC specs do I need to run games at 4K? Oh no, we would be talking about old games. But not just that, like in theory, like PlayStation 4 or excuse me, PlayStation 3 games should possibly look better on a 4K TV than a 1080p TV because most of those are 720p, and you're looking at them on a 1080p TV. Well, 720p.
It might look better. It might be completely no difference.
It might be something that you really couldn't tell.
Yeah.
It might be faster.
Yeah, it could be faster. That's possible.
The
Which is
thing that,
important.
the big question in my mind, and this might be something that varies manufacturer to manufacturer, or I feel like it's probably nothing that you would have control over in settings, but like if you are taking, say, the FrameMeister and you've got it set for 720p or 1080p, does it handle the rest of that scale sharp, or is it smooth, or does it even make a difference since you've already got the FrameMeister scaling at 3 or 4 or 5 times sharp? Does the method of scaling 720p or 1080p to 4K, does whether it's a sharp scale or smooth scale, can you even tell the difference then if you've already got the retro games scaled up sharp? Am I making any sense?
I think it's still you could still get poor scaling even if it's integer multiple, depending on, like you said, how the TV manufacturer decides to implement the scaling algorithm. Just because it's an integer number doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get perfect scale up there. They could implement filters and stuff like that don't make it clear when you do that scale.
That's good. Jason asked, noticing flicker on the blue color. Is that the capture card or the cables?
It's the capture card.
Corey is using a different capture card that actually accepts 240p, but it's a little wonky. So
just the over composite, or component. For some reason, it doesn't happen. It has an RGB input, but obviously we're not.
Yeah, we're like we said earlier, you can run these through the FrameMeister, obviously, but
it's fine on the TV.
We're trying to represent, how they're expected to be used, which is plugged directly into a TV. And you're probably not really set up to easily show how it is on the FrameMeister right now.
Well, it'd take me a couple minutes, but I could probably do it.
Maybe at the end we can try if you want to.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
No, I can absolutely do it.
As far as sharpness goes, as far as I've observed, there's the RGB signal that the system is outputting is equally as sharp, regardless of whether you're using RGB.
Now that I think about it, it's like I'm gonna have to get behind the thing and pull out the cables.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. Yeah, it's just I know the FrameMeister has problems with component inputs. Like it's doing some color space conversion a little wonky. It doesn't look completely correct. You could tweak it so it looks really good, but I've never gotten it to look like as good as it either RGB into the FrameMeister or component directly into a TV.
Yeah. What I'm planning to do with my I see, for some reason, like getting these cables has got my brain working on stupid ways that I can get more CRTs in my setup like Corey, right? And I'm a little jealous of all those CRTs.
Well, you're kind of working on some stuff.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that I can get a 19-inch PVM soon. So that would go where my little PVM is right now, and I would move the little PVM to one of the sides, and I've got a little consumer CRT that I've already sort of put up high on my setup, mainly just for like, different types of screens to shoot off of for the show, but also because it might be kind of cool to have like a screen up high to like
For
play
light
light gun games on.
Yeah. Is it like
But,
is it higher than your head? Like,
it's like eye level.
oh, that's perfect then. I mean,
Yeah.
even my bigger one, I have to,
Like you
to
might
kinda
have to
aim
raise your
downwards.
hands a little higher than you would prefer. Like it'd be higher than the arcade. Like if I was using a bigger TV, it'd definitely be maybe a little tall. But I'm kind of scared that a bigger TV would not be supported by IKEA. But anyway, like I was saying, like I'm planning to run once I have the bigger PVM, which I'm hoping possibly I can get later this month. That I'm hopeful. I've got some leads, and when I move the CRT, so I'm going to take the HD Retrovision cables out of a Super Famicom and another Genesis, have those run into the component switcher, have the component output from that goes to the FrameMeister as always. I've got the second output from the component switcher that will then run to then that will run straight into the little consumer CRT. So I'll have all component systems going to that. And then I also want to have like the other PVM is going to have wait, how's it going to do that?
You need a whiteboard for this.
I had something going there. I think I'm missing something because I was going to use the right. So the other thing I was going to do, I was going to have so then I'll have the bigger PVM that I'm hoping to get. I'll have RGB go into that, then RGB go out of that all the way to the little PVM, and then RGB go out of that to the RGB to component converter. That will also go into the component switcher, and then in theory, everything will go to the little consumer CRT as well. So all RGB convert to YPBPR, and then then it'll be GameCube, Wii, PSP, Xbox, and then the two the Super Famicom and the Extra Genesis with the HD Retrovision cables, all going through that. So yeah, I'm going to have video signals going everywhere as if I didn't already. So
Yeah.
You're really convincing me of my thesis that retro gamers really just like the conquest of setting up something really complicated and trying to figure out how to make it all work.
Yeah.
And then the gaming thing is kind of secondary. We need problems to solve.
I don't want the gaming thing to be secondary, but the show keeps making me do all these stupid techie stuff.
All right, I'm gonna switch games. I'm gonna demonstrate the cables working on a RGB modded N64.
Warning, this RGB mod N64 was not installed by Retrofixes. We cannot guarantee it will work.
Unofficial.
It works.
Yeah, this one was.
It works.
This one was installed by Retrofixes.
I think
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Oh, but no.
Oh, okay.
It has the other mod, which we haven't fully approved yet. We only approved the simpler mod.
Oh, okay. So this is the Tim Worthington one.
No,
Yeah.
this is a simple mod right here.
Oh no, it is. Oh, okay, never mind. Then so yeah, this is totally official. Then.
I think the bigger reason behind all this, and this, I mean, really hit home with us as we were talking to Wes, is like, if you just go buy and if you watch Bob's show, he showed something like this too today on his weekly stream. If you go buy one of these consoles pre-modded on eBay, God knows the quality of what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, Wes has been sent consoles that, people bought that were RGB modded, and it's just a complete disaster inside. Doesn't work. It's a mess of soldering. And I mean, so that's, to me, even like the bigger thing is, we know his workmanship is really
Right.
I mean, the funny thing is how I found him was I bought my Super Nintendo Mini pre-modded on eBay from him. Like I didn't really know like who to go to for that, and I didn't want to like buy a system and then get it modded. Like I just didn't want to deal with the hassle, and I didn't really have like a reliable go-to mod person yet. So he was selling a couple of pre-modded systems on eBay, and so that's how I found out about him. So, but now I obviously just go straight to him instead. So I just kind of lucked into that.
Yeah, it's more than just learning how to, use a soldering iron and putting some components together. Like, there's definitely an art to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and standards.
Yep.
But I mean, this
Yeah,
worked
comments.
perfectly when I tried it earlier. 'Cause, I mean, I really have I'm not a huge N64 fan anyways, so I mean, I'm just gonna probably wouldn't use them on this other than this time, but it's just so cool that it works.
Yeah.
So was there any like challenge in getting like specific systems to work, or is it just like kind of a like stuff like this? Was it more of it's just kind of a happy accident that it works?
It's not a happy. Well, it isn't. It's not an accident. It's more of a side effect. Because
Please describe the difference between those two things.
A happy side effect?
it was. There's a lot of revisions of SNES, and then the PAL, like we discussed earlier, the PAL circuit is like totally different. And
Is that what the brightness switch is for?
The brightness switch on SNES is mainly for old SNESes.
I told you. I told you that's what it was.
I thought it was for PAL.
I know,
I assumed
I
it
was like-
for
No,
PAL.
it's for old SNESes, NTSC or PAL versus newer SNESes,
one chips,
NTSC or
yes.
PAL. It
Because-
doesn't matter.
Because it brightens the pictures on my early non-one chip unit, and it makes it look really good. It makes it almost look like a one chip. And then when I put the one chip on, I have to turn it off because it makes it too bright.
Yes, exactly. That's
Like
exactly
that's awesome. I mean, that's like a whole other thing. Like you can improve the picture quality of a non-one chip unit by a lot just with that.
But it's not sharper.
It's not sharper. But
It's just brighter. It's more vivid.
It's because the whole one big research aspect of this whole project, like we went over, is that we took all these revisions and we measured the video signals. We wrote test software so we can put the signals on the oscilloscope and measure them and get an equivalent circuit made. And then we put them in the spreadsheet and calculated it, all these numbers to get the correct values in the circuit to create the correct gains on the circuit so you get the correct video amplitudes at the output. And so that's the result of all that research to try to match a standardized output, because component video for consumer TVs is standardized. There's a document and it explains what the video levels need to be. And so I was trying to hit that on as many consoles as possible. Mm-hmm. So that's what you get.
And, like you were explaining earlier about how it basically is designed to automatically accommodate the difference between like the inherent difference between RGB lines in the NTSC SNES and the PAL SNES. And so I didn't I didn't realize that it was that robust. So that's what I thought the Switch was for. So that's wild.
And then the N64 working is just a side effect of that robustness of working throughout all those different SNES revisions. So yeah.
Well, according to certain forums, we just took a schematic off the internet and put it into a cable. So
Yeah.
So the
Can
cable
it be-
that
Yeah, go ahead.
or I was just going to say the system that I'm going to put the cable into, intend to put into long term is a non one chip Super Famicom. So when I was testing, I did think it looked better with the brightness switch up. So now I know why. That's intentional.
Actually, one thing that this is like total aside, but one thing we actually started messing around with, it's just like really preliminary research for a feature we would think about putting in a product like the HDMizer is a feature to let you kind of, I don't want to get too in the weeds on it from a technical standpoint, but essentially it'll let you convert an old SNES into something that looks like a one chip. Is the best way I can put it in non-technical terms, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
it's in some ways it's kind of related to what's going on with the N64 deblur, not exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would expect. I mean, in some ways, the sharpness setting in the FrameMeister kind of does that, where it, anything that is blurred in the horizontal axis, it just kind of tightens it up. I don't know if that really is a good choice of words, but it just makes those edges sharper. But it can be over sharpened. In our RGB 301 video, where we're like, we're just kind of lazy and use some of these settings, and then like 2 weeks later they released the firmware update that let you load and save profiles, and then Firebrand X got in contact with us and he started making the profiles, and that was when I discovered, well, when you're doing these like pixel perfect profiles like he is, you don't need that sharpness 1 setting on the FrameMeister to get a sharp look. And in fact, it does more harm than good. And we were like,
Yes.
In the video, we were like, sometimes on certain pixels you can see it look a little funny, but we think it's worth it to just do it this way. But now, I don't do it that way, except and Firebrand does this on some of his profiles as well, where he does have sharpness 1, like for example, for the Game Boy player profiles, because the GameCube output is a little bit soft, and I believe the same for PSP. But the way that the video output for those systems work, it doesn't really do a lot of damage to the look of the individual pixels. So.
So the thing that Nick was mentioning about the SNES is not really a generic sharpness setting. It's we're specifically undoing the waveform distortion that old PPUs in the SNES consoles, the way it distorts the waveform. We're specifically undoing it so it gets undistorted. And so it's not a general sharpness setting. It would be a specific SNES, non one chip to one chip conversion.
Are the non one chips? Do they have pretty much the exact same blur?
Yes, it's the same waveform characteristic on there.
That's just wild to me that can be pretty much completely reversed.
Well, it's I don't think it's completely reversible. We were just toying with what happens if we try to reverse it, and we got decent looking results. We just have to mess around more with it and test it over across more things.
Yeah, that would just be huge.
Yeah, I mean, I had just taken like I think it was A Link to the Past, maybe one other game, where I was messing around, and like Steve said, the results on it were pretty good. I did the same thing, trying to mess and essentially create a VID blur type thing for N64, but that's quite a different beast of a problem. It's much harder to solve. The SNES is a little bit easier from a technical standpoint to reverse.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing about the N64, and now it's not 100% perfect. Like Star Fox here is a good example. Marshall, the guy who made it, he has some sort of something that's watching the video image, and it decides whether it's a good fit for using the D-blur or not. Because if the original resolution was not 320 by 240, then the D-blur is going to look bad.
Okay.
I think it's deciding that based on a flag or register inside the game code.
Well, I think, I mean, the from how he explained it to me, it watches the image, because I don't know if the Ultra HDMI sees the image as 320 by 240, or if it sees it as 640 by 480. I don't know if it sees it sees it at that point. I could be wrong.
Right.
But
So like Tim's doing this in his board, and I'm not watching the image, right?
Yeah.
But from what I've heard,
what Ultra HDMI is doing though is, I think it's doing something more, is what he's trying to say, where it can switch it on automatically based on if it's a good fit for that game, as opposed to it always being on or always being off based on a manual switch.
So like I actually have it set to always on, because basically all of my games look good with it. There are a few like 480i games you don't want to have it on. I tested. I don't have it, but I tested. What was it? Rush 2049. Am I right on the number on that? I always forget the number on that game. But like it runs at some oddball resolution. I want to say Rayman 2 runs at some oddball resolution, and D-blur doesn't look good on those games. But Star Fox, it does not detect Star Fox as a game to automatically apply it to. But if you say the always on, if you set VI D-blur to always on, Star Fox looks fine. There's no quirks with how it looks. My suspicion is because Star Fox is very heavy on the dithering and has like you don't really see it normally, but like during screen fades and stuff, and like in the pre-intro sequence, you sort of see a bit of a film grain effect, and I'm wondering if that's like screwing with the detection. But I don't know what it is, but I guess my point is, and he acknowledges it's not 100% perfect at the detection, but it's interesting. He has something that watches this and makes some sort of judgment whether to have it on or off. And as far as I know, no one really knows how he did it. Like no one's figured it out.
Okay,
like because they.
For the last thing, what I'm gonna do, like even though I've only been playing this for a little bit, since we were talking about the brightness switch, I'm gonna kind of show it in action. I'm gonna get my original Super NES and hook it up really quick. You guys continue.
I don't remember what we were talking about. Were we talking about anything?
And now did you guys know that? And Corey might even mention this earlier, I forget, that recently people you can't do this with the simple style, the old style RGB mod, but you can with the Tim Worthington N64 board. People figured out a way to use that and do a D-blur.
Yep.
That's very similar. It's not... it's just some sort of toggle. I'm not exactly sure how you toggle it, but it's not, there's nothing that watches the image, in other words.
Right. Nick just mentioned that Tim Worthington's board can be upgraded with new firmware that can do it at a hard-coded setting, and I think the newer revisions of the board will have a pin for some sort of manual switch that you could flick on or off.
Yeah, and... so that's pretty cool. I think that's the route Corey's going to take because he plays so much on his PVM. Though I have no idea how noticeable it's even going to be on a CRT, even a PVM. Like it's HDMI where I think you can really see it. The D-blur. But
I
yeah.
also don't know how many of those Ultra HDMIs are even being manufactured, really. I don't know how easy it is to get one.
Yeah, I mean, they've been coming in very limited waves. You know, the NES RGB and N64 RGB boards, you know, thankfully seem to be regularly in stock. And I know Tim has even, you know, done updates to the boards, and so he has definitely done that. But oh man, it's so weird looking at a Chrono Trigger file select screen where every single file doesn't have the wood paneling text box on it.
This is my childhood copy.
Anything else? Like the first time I booted up Chrono Trigger, I was like, I looked at the window options. I'm like, why would I use anything but the wood one, ever?
Well,
Corey, are you gonna mess around with the brightness switch a bit?
yep, I am. I'm just getting to a place where you can really see it, like the outside.
I've never learned the warp points. Like the best one to do is probably go to 1000 AD. Oh, you already did, because that has the most, like the world map there has the most vivid colors, and the
Right.
Guardia, the Millennial Fair.
Can I knock it out of here from right here?
Oh, you can. One of the warps takes you
Right
to the Millennial Fair.
That's where I wanted to go. It's been a little while.
There's another warp that takes you to there's another warp that takes you to a monster village.
Yeah, that's the other 1000 AD. But he's at a point in the game where that.
You went to the 600. That's the 600. Or no?
No, that's 1000. But that's at the point where the mob blocks you.
Yeah, I don't even remember that one. That being one that you could return to.
Yeah, you could go there. It's blocked off because the mob chases you.
Oh,
out.
duh! What am I doing? I just get in the Epic.
Medina Village.
What am I doing?
Medina Village is fine.
I don't know what I'm doing. Like, why am I not getting in the Epic? Sorry. It's like stupid. It's stupid. I'm trying to just jump to a point. I'm like, why am I not?
Medina Village is go
Epic.
Medina Village.
Well, it's too late.
Epoch.
Yeah.
Duh.
I always thought it was the Epic. Is it the Epoch? I don't know. I always call it the Epic.
Epoch.
Okay. So you can kind of see here, you know, like it's kind of dark. I mean, this is on. I mean, I got this when Street Fighter 2 came out, so it's a non-one chip. It's a pre-one chip, and then
Like 9293.
yeah, probably summer of '92. It was right after a price drop when it dropped down to like 150 or something like that.
Wow.
Or maybe it was down to a 99. I don't know. But you see, it's kind of dark. You know, it's certainly not as vivid as the Mega Man X that we were playing. This is like the default setting, and I can switch this switch, and it brightens it up a bit. I think it looks a lot better.
We're watching on a delay, so I gotta wait.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta wait 30 seconds for it. But I'll switch back and forth really quick.
Oh, yep. There. Oh, yeah. That looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Like even like and it does it without like making like the black levels don't like get washed out or anything.
Right.
Like you can see like more depth in the trees. I feel.
Yeah,
Like
it's more of a contrast switch than a brightness switch, I guess. So the black level, your black level doesn't shift, but your gain on your other signals gets amplified. But again, it's more drastic on the Genesis one because the difference between old Master Systems and like everything else.
I mean, I just
It's
have
like-
my Genesis. I mean, I could show what it looks like with just like a general Genesis game if you wanted me to.
It's up to you. Like it's gonna look good on the one setting. It's gonna look way too bright on the other setting with a Genesis.
Right. You know, like I saw it with like how much detail you lose when it's bright on Altered Beast, like on the title screen.
Yes, because if it's used in a spot where it makes it too bright, then your amplifiers start clipping and you start
Right.
like saturating the colors.
Yeah. But I mean, you can
Yeah.
really tell a difference with the original
This
model.
is actually flipped to the other adapters that we want to make potentially. One of the reasons we have to go and write software for Saturn, Neo Geo, which we already have a start on, and PlayStation is you have to have an adapter that is compatible with one of those settings that we already developed for the Genesis, right? So
you're going to like have to specify, like if you're using this with a PlayStation, you need to have it flipped this way.
Yeah, I mean, I think people will be able to figure it out, but the bigger worry is, like, just imagine that a Neo Geo was just way brighter than the Genesis, and that both settings on the Switch made it look washed out and too bright. You'd have to redesign what's
I'll get
in
a
that
Genesis game just to show it.
compensate for that.
But thankfully, that's not the case.
Well, we don't know yet.
Wow.
Because at least for Neo Geo, it seems to be okay. We might have to put some components in the Neo Geo adapter. We haven't decided yet. And then for the PlayStation and Saturn, we still, like Nick said, we have to write the test software and do the measurements. We wrote the test software. We got to try it out and do the measurements. Yeah.
Yep.
Let me just. It's further away, so I got to stand up and do it. I'm like,
What are you getting ready to play here?
He's got to do a Genesis brightness demo.
yeah, I'm just gonna show what
okay.
it looks like. So this is normal, I believe, what I have it on right now.
As soon as you flick it, you'll be able to tell. That's for sure.
Oh, my Genesis 2, the AC adapter comes loose really easily, and sometimes the system restarts.
So is the switch, the brightness switch on the Genesis cable, is it a more dramatic effect?
Oh yeah, much more.
Yeah, you'll
dramatic.
see it in just a second here.
Yeah, well, because the Master System is a lot darker without proper cables. Oh yeah, wow. Whew, yeah, that's too much.
But it'll make Master System games look amazing when played on a first model revision.
Just to be clear, it's not all Master Systems. It's the older ones. I don't know where the cutoff is.
Is there? I mean, mine was one that doesn't even have. It's like a snail maze one that has no other games on the BIOS.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure, but you would know.
Oh no, I had to get another SCART cable for it because it was so dark. Because like the resistors in it for the because the Genesis needed resistors or something, or is it? Yeah, the Genesis needs resistors, so it makes the Master System too dark.
Right.
Right. And that's why, like in our Master System RGB episode, it was before I knew that, and I showed a comparison between a power-based converter and my original Master System, and I say, oh, the picture on the original Master System is so much darker. That was because of the SCART cable. I got a new SCART cable that it doesn't have the resistors, and picture is identical.
Yeah, we had no idea that you need a specific Master System SCART.
Right.
It's technically not the fault of the SCART cable. It's just the voltages are too low in the Master System, and technically you're not supposed to take that resistor out. It's supposed to be there, but I guess it's kind of like a workaround that people have done.
So officially the Master System really is supposed to be darker then.
Just the older Master Systems had just weak voltage signals. I think the video encoder they used, I think it was a Sony video encoder. That's like an old one that's not used on in later revisions. Either Sony or a Motorola. It might be a Motorola, actually. I don't remember. But technically, you don't want to. I'm just super careful about everything. Like I calculated when I made the input circuitry for our cables. Like I went back and looked up all the video encoders that could be in a Genesis and calculated if I wasn't pulling too much current out of them, because you don't want to violate a spec in those video encoder chips. And so I'm very careful when I do like engineering work like that. So.
Well, that's a heck of a lot more work than goes into. I'm sure any of the SCART cables that we normally buy. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, I'm sure that Retro Console Accessories has done her
Oh,
homework in terms of stuff, but
I'm sure. And those.
I mean, just like the general cables that you're getting off of like Amazon or something like that are just mass produced.
Oh yeah.
From I can't think of who makes them. Not like Retrobit or something like that. Are they the ones that make a lot of that stuff?
Oh no.
I don't know.
The ones on Amazon, you'll see in the comments section a lot of complaints too. So
Yeah.
people notice those things.
I've never really played this game. Try. You gave this to me.
Did I?
Yeah. You gave this to me because you got it in like a.
Yeah, I got a bunch of things from a friend, and I kept some things, and I don't remember this being one of them though.
I know we're running short on time, but do you have a 32X? Because there have been multiple.
I do have one, but it.
It's no big deal if you don't.
I'm just thinking about like I don't know if I have an easy way to hook it up without pulling anything apart. I should have thought about that, but I mean, I could do it easily, except for I don't have an additional AC adapter that will fit it.
You don't have your Trio hooked up?
Well, I do, but it's all the way over there, and I would have to pull these because of the way I'm going directly into my other card. My systems are right here, and not
I gotcha.
over
Yeah,
there.
don't worry.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
What was the thing with the 32X? Is there some issue some people have?
Yeah, some people wanted to see it with 32X. We did a 32X stream during the Kickstarter, and we played Knuckles Chaotix, which is like a terrible game, in my opinion. It's very painful to watch.
You gotta watch out; those Sonic fans will come after you.
That's fine. I'm a huge Sonic fan myself. It's intolerable. I think it's mostly the colors. It's just a really painful game to look at for a
lot of it's a lot of pastels, I guess. But I've only played it like on my EverDrive. That's about it. I'm gonna go back to. Is there anything else that I can try out with what I have here? I mean, I could do. It might take a minute or so, but I could do like an A/B between your cables and a SCART to component transcoder. I could like switch back and forth with them really quickly, if you want me to.
Sure.
Which one do you use?
It's I got it off of eBay. It's like a AV specialty or something like that. That's the people that makes it. I've had no real issues with it. If you want me to, I can do it. It'll just take a minute or so.
It's up to you. That's a good idea. Also, you mentioned you have an NES. I don't know if you wanted to try that.
Well, that's a whole nother. Like I got to pull the AC adapter out. But the other one I can just boot up over there, and I have them on a switch box. I can switch back and forth. I'll just do that really quick. It won't take very long. All I have to do is find the same game on the EverDrive. Okay, hang on. You guys continue on.
Okay. Were there a bunch of questions we missed? I haven't been looking at I don't have the text or chat pulled up.
Maybe just tell people, like, I know we're on a 30-second delay, but now is like a really good time to throw questions at us, because it's really hard, I realize, to stay focused in the conversation and look at the scrolling text, especially when it's flying by that fast.
What was I mean, I know this is not related to you all, but I wasn't really paying too much attention to the whole high def NES launch, which coincidentally was the same day as. Was this the first time that like kits became available to people outside of Kevtris and Game Tech, who helped him develop it?
I think so.
So
I don't know for sure though.
I mean, I didn't hear much about how how that went, but so yeah, just so people know, if you were interested in the high def NES, they are. I guess those are starting to be released into the wild, but they are probably already sold out.
They're sold out now. All right, we're getting questions here. We asked for them. Okay, let's go with this. Have you tried the Trio with the component cables? You guys made the case that certain power supplies affect video quality.
I haven't used the Trio because I couldn't get my hands on one, but I think Corey has one. So I usually, when I test power supplies, I test to see if they look good, and I also crack them open and see if they're safely built. But I have not tested that one.
Yeah, Ste helped us out to verify that the Retro DC was made with good components, because they were working for their own site, and I believe you've got a page on your site still that has like some recommended
We have a blog
third-party power supplies.
Yeah, there's a good blog post where we recommend some, and we tell you the ones that you should stay away from because it'll probably start your house on fire.
and not just burn down your house, but bad power supplies in particular can have an effect on the RGB picture quality, which is one of the main reasons you wanted to feature that specifically on your site, because people would say, oh, your cables are garbage. Well, no, it's actually the $5 power supply that you bought at your retro store or bought on Amazon or whatever.
That's exactly why we did that. And I pulled up the chat. Did you want me to just try to lightning round these questions here?
Hang on, let me just do this AB right now. So right now we're looking at your cables.
Yeah.
And then there's a SCART 2 component transcoder.
Waiting.
Like, the only thing I can really see by doing that is there's like a slight image shift, and I don't know which one's more correct.
I don't know if it's my imagination, but I feel like the greens have like a hint more of a yellow.
I think the
close,
HD Retrovision, like on the stream, I think it looks a little bit brighter.
So in terms of the shift, that's actually one thing that was carefully designed in our cables. We made sure that the shift was minimized as much as possible. If you want, I could start like going through these questions.
Yeah,
if you were a soup, what kind of soup would you be? Probably lentil soup. Have you guys had issues with CRTs with very slight shaky video? Not CRTs, just HD TVs that have a sync jitter problem. I haven't tested it with many CRTs. What are your
My CRT that we used to do the testing with was a little bit shaky. But
it was shaky on every type of input. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And I can only notice it really close too.
Yeah. It wasn't a huge deal, but.
So what are your day jobs, and are your employers supportive of this? My day job is I'm an electrical engineer at this aerospace company. We build like entertainment systems for business jets, like 4K media servers, TVs. And my employers are actually super supportive of this. And they're actually old Midway hardware engineers.
Really?
My CTO is the designer of the graphics chip inside Mortal Kombat.
No way.
Cruising USA. Yes.
Really?
And so I get all these old Midway stories at work all the time. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Midway is one of the few Chicago game companies, right?
Are you
Your
excited about that
bosses are
documentary?
cameos in NBA Jam, right?
My bosses. Wait, say that again. I missed that.
Didn't you say your bosses are like cameos in NBA Jam or something?
Yes, the first year we were at MagFest, me and Nick played as my director of electrical engineering and the CTO, and we faced off against the New York Knicks, Ewing and Starks, and we crushed them because the secret characters are just like inflated like crazy. But yeah, Nick wants to explain his day job too. It's a different one.
Yeah, I'm a data scientist. I do cybersecurity at a healthcare company. They're not supportive or unsupportive of it, but I work from home, so that makes it a lot easier for me to manage my time between the two.
What else we got? Are there any problems with projectors for retro gaming? I haven't tested many projectors.
We get a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, do you guys know?
I had no idea. I mean, there's no way I could get one in this house. My wife would kill me.
People ask questions like, do they have lag and stuff, and I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, it's
probably
tough to,
varies.
I mean, I see most of those like on the street, just like headed for like on garbage day, because they're enormous.
Right. When will cables be available again? I don't know if Nick, you want to answer that.
We're hoping mid-August is when we're expecting the next shipment in, and yes, it's going to be bigger than this current one.
But it'll probably still sell out like really fast.
I can't guarantee that. Actually, somebody emailed us and it had sold something on Shopify before he had a little bit of experience, and he tried contacting them, for like, my thought was just be like, if I could notify them to, divert a little bit extra resources, but as far as Shopify is concerned, it's basically like a distributed denial of service attack when this happens, and there's not much they can do, and it's going to be what it is. There'll be more cables, and hopefully it's not as difficult for people. There were a few people who got cables into their cart, but by the time they checked out, they were sold out. I mean, it's rough. I mean, not much we can do. We understand why people got a little bit upset about that, but
it will be interesting to see how many pop up on eBay. How does it feel to be directly responsible for something like that happening?
The one thing I can say about that is if they do pop up on eBay, it would be an interesting data point for us to see what we could have charged.
All right, I'm going to try to plow through some more here. Did you guys get to try it with a PVM? I have.
I've been playing on a PVM this whole time, just so you know.
Okay. So there is one little interesting caveat with component video and PVMs that have component video. Most Sony PVMs actually adhere to a slightly different standard of component video than consumer component video does. Our cables are designed for consumer component video. Sony has its own little standard that was only in the professional world. So you might get slightly different colors based on that. My PVM has a switch that I can switch in between the two. Not all of them have it, but it's just one thing to keep in mind. Question, what's your favorite beer? I don't drink beer, and Nick might drink beer. I don't.
It'd be hard for me to nail down a favorite. I drink everything from like craft micro brews to the delicious PBR that I had tonight.
PBR.
When it's this like oppressively hot out, I go for like the cheap light beers, and
oh man,
in the winter I'll drink the $12.
I cannot do PBR anymore. But
yeah.
I'm just gonna kind of jump in because I like this question. I'll drink anything Southern Tier Brewery, because that's where I'm from originally. That's where I grew up. So if I ever see Southern Tier, like I always get it. Anything by them. Pumpkin.
They make really good like heavy dark beers that I like.
But I mean, I don't see too much of it here in Cincinnati. But
yeah, I only drink root beer, so. Any chance we could get a component GameCube panel made by HD Retrovision? We've explored this very limitedly. We showed the connector, because that's the big thing, is the connector to our contract manufacturer. We asked them if it was possible to make something like this. They said maybe. So but there's other people working on stuff like that, so if there's stuff that's already done and complete and being worked on, we'd rather work on some other stuff. So we don't know yet if it's something worth pursuing.
Troy, do you want to talk about what you were doing with the GameCube and their component cables yesterday?
It works.
Well, on a
PAL
on a PAL, it does.
Yeah, it works on a PAL GameCube. Obviously, you're only going to get 480i because only or up to 480i only comes out of the port.
But for the Game Boy player, for a Game Boy interface, it's
for
perfect.
Game Boy interface. And to be honest, that's all I was testing it with. So the Game Boy interface, it doesn't matter what video system the GameCube is. You load the Game Boy interface, it's going to be running in 240p, and I think there might be a way to do 288p for PAL, but I'm not sure. But when I launch it, it's 480 or 240p. And the component cables, the HD Retrovision cables are perfect for the Game Boy interface on a PAL GameCube. In a lot of ways that could be like the cheapest way to get, equivalent RGB quality out of a GameCube for Game Boy games. So.
Yeah. All right. I'll keep going. What component capture card do you guys recommend to capture with the cables? We mentioned it earlier. There was a really cheap one that worked really well, and it went out of production, and we were trying to see how we could get it. So we're still trying a bunch of other things, maybe test different ones. The one that Corey's using is the PEX HD cap. That one seems to work.
But you do get a slight color shifting.
Yeah, there's some weird with component only.
And it only does up to 1080i it has an HDMI input, but it only does to 1080i.
Right. So if you were to get it, you would probably get it just for this feature.
Yeah.
Seems like.
Because not a lot of capture cards see 240p.
Yes, that's true. Well, that's why we wanted to find a cheap one.
No Avermedias or Elgatos see it.
Yeah, we actually talked to Elgato about that, and they actually looked into it, and they said they couldn't support engineering time to develop a firmware update for that. But I did look into it.
But that'd be a huge plus for them if they did that.
Yeah, I've actually been telling people just go talk to Elgato. The more people that go and say, "Hey, we want this," the more likely it is that they'll do it.
It's just a firmware update. That's all I need to do.
Well, it's probably not that trivial, but there's probably some work that needs to be done. But it'd be nice if they could do it.
It's probably worth the engineering time, given how many people are out there that want to stream.
Yeah. Stream anything retro. Yeah. A lot of people.
How do you deal with all the RF is best fanboys? Why is RF so much better? I don't know. I've never heard that before.
I think I've maybe only run across one of those.
One RF. It's a lot of composites, but
yeah, I've heard composite, and a lot of that is around Genesis composite in particular, because people, make somewhat of a valid point that there's a lot of dithering in certain Genesis games that is meant to take advantage of that smear.
Yeah, but to me, it doesn't look like extra colors. It looks like a rainbow pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're
and
actually...
it works in exactly one spot, and that's like the waterfalls.
Right.
In a Sonic 1.
Shadow in it.
Well, there's a lot of dithering in Earthworm Jim and Lion King as well, but we're actually looking into a special blurring filter that will give you the smoothing of those heavy pixels for dithering.
Interesting.
Through our HDMizer, like a toggle setting that you can switch on and off.
Would it? I assume it would blur the whole screen, or would it specifically look for dither patterns?
It will blur the whole screen in the same way that composite video blurs it, but you won't get the rainbowing effect. Right. So it's rainbowing less.
It'll be like good composite.
We could also control, more precisely how we want that blur feature to look. You know, there's a blurring function that passes over the image, and you can make this blur wider so you'll average more pixels, or you can average fewer, and that'll determine just how smeared it is. So if we're the ones deciding that, we can kind of make it look how we want and how we think looks best.
That's pretty cool.
Do your cables work with CRT TVs? Yes, they work very well with them.
That's like probably the main way I'm going to use them for myself.
Yeah.
We actually weren't intending to have. We knew it would work with CRTs and work well, but we didn't intend that so many people would get them for that. Which SCART to component box are you using? I think Corey mentioned it's like a specialty AV.
Yeah.
And the one that you used previously that you gave me is like what, a Keen something?
Yeah,
or
it's like the Keen Sync Blaster.
Yeah, if you look at our
but
tour
that'll
videos,
that'll go
there's a
both
close-up
ways.
of it.
That'll go.
Yeah, that one can go YPBPR to RGB or RGB to YPBPR. So that one's pretty versatile.
Yeah, but it's kind of expensive. It's like over $100.
I wouldn't know you. Yeah, I got it for
I know.
free.
I just gave it to you because I was having an issue when I was. That was back
The
before
TurboGrafx didn't work well with it.
Well, when I was converting it from RGB to component, because for some reason on my PVM I was getting like a weird kind of jittering at the top of the screen, specifically with that. I didn't get that at all with this, but then like now I'm going SCART directly in SCART to BNC and then my PVM, so it doesn't even matter.
Okay. Do you want me to try to hit more questions? Or
Yeah,
we
go.
can end it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
There's
about,
some sort
about
of
5 more minutes, I think.
flickering thing on the bottom, towards the bottom. That's not part of the game, is it? That's the capture card adding that effect.
Wait, no. You mean on what I'm playing, or no?
I think that's what it's referring to.
Oh no, I think
There's
that what they meant is like the Genesis. How it has like the flashing dots.
Oh, the overscan.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's just a Genesis overscan thing.
Yeah, that's a graphics errors that's meant to be covered by overscan.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen those because I've been using Firebrand's 5X profiles. I kind of forgot about them.
Yeah, I mean, I use the 4X just because I rarely play on my FrameMeister anymore. When I at least for retro
capture.
Yeah.
One thing that's kind of cool that I feel like we should mention, because I've kind of retweeted it a few times, and we're not at the stage where we're officially supporting this yet, but we talked a bit with Renee from DB Electronics last night, and we're going to try to test out his device, because some people sent us pictures of the Genesis cable working with his device plugged into a TurboGrafx, which is kind of cool. Of course, we want to do our due diligence to make sure that all's well with that, but
that's cool.
promising.
I mean, it's something you probably never even thought about, or did you?
No, we didn't think of that. We actually had specs for a similar type of device that he makes that would just give you component and composite out of it, but the same way of how it plugs in the expansion port. And to be able to just like let his device deal with that whole situation, I think is something we want to look into.
Yeah, because it's a standard thing. You know what's going to be in it, whereas you don't necessarily know what's going to be in any given like TurboGrafx mod like Corey has for his PC Engine. What's the typical kind of port for a PC Engine or TurboGrafx internal mod like what you have, Corey?
Well, the port on mine almost looks like a Genesis one. It's a bit bigger. It won't fit though. I mean, it's not. I think it's smaller than a Genesis.
It's unique among your systems,
right?
Which is kind of weird, right? You'd think why wouldn't they have just made like a Genesis port?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, okay. Someone says it's the same as the AES Neo Geo. So, but I don't know if it would work.
Oh,
like if you plugged a Neo Geo, like if I plugged your Neo Geo adapter thing that you made into that, I mean, I could, but
Interesting.
Yeah, just check out the pin layout. That's really the most important thing. Because one is a U shape, one's a C shape, so that's like
Right.
the best.
What's the status on future projects like Dreamcast component cable? We're trying to, like we mentioned in the stream earlier, we're trying to figure out priorities right now and see where we should spend more engineering time towards. Oh God, I got to start cutting these down.
Just a couple more. A couple more. We got 3 more
noise
minutes.
coming from JVC XI from left and right audio jacks. Would be best to pull audio from the headphone jack instead. I have no experience with this. I don't know if you guys have.
JVC XI?
No, I mean,
Local
used
store
to-
had one, but I saw someone earlier in the chat say that the XI is kind of garbage anyway. Apparently, the CD drive does not have much longevity.
Yeah.
Is your Genesis component cables better than a modded S Video Genesis? Probably.
I think so.
Absolutely. Yeah, without
In
doubt.
my case, it works.
Yeah,
My
bought an S Video Genesis that didn't work for him. He gave it to me. It didn't work for me either. I opened
and
it
now
up
its
and
main use is being used to show the internals of a Genesis and being thrown in a garbage can
yeah, I threw it in a garbage can for one
a
shot. But I always forget. Like I'm always like, ooh, I've got this Genesis that I've already got unscrewed and everything, and I'll just use this to show the inside of the motherboard. And I'm like, oh wait, there's all these ugly wires and
it's
glue
like
inside,
hot glue.
and it's like this is not how a Genesis is supposed to look inside. So I always keep forgetting that, and I'm always like, ooh, I'm going to use this to show the inside of the system, man. It's like, oh wait, no, I can't.
Yeah, so there's like tons of questions,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
It is what it is, you know. Well, I mean,
Y'all got a Twitter account? Follow at HD Retrovision.
yeah, the address is right there on the screen.
Yeah, tweet at us and we'll ignore your questions there, right?
Blame Nick.
Yeah.
He's the social media guy. I still use a flip phone, so.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this. It's been a long time coming. Actually, I think we talked about it like a long time ago. It's just like the timing was perfect.
You wanted your cables to be out before you came here, and
Right.
then well,
Yeah.
here we are.
We wanted them to exist, yes.
They exist. Can you believe it? They
No,
exist.
can't. But yeah, thanks for inviting us, and we love talking about nerd stuff. Even if it wasn't our cables, we like talking about this stuff. So,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you guys. You're welcome back anytime.
cool.
Yeah, we'd love to do it again for sure.
Yep. All right, so I think it's gonna do it for this week. No episode, I think, this week. We've had 3 weeks in a row of stuff, even though
Which is kind of unheard of these days.
yeah.
So
I mean, thanks to everybody who watched the panel video. It was not as popular as our last one, but you know, it's what it is.
I watched it. I enjoyed it.
I think it went pretty smooth. I think. Like,
Yeah, it was a much smaller group of people in there.
Right. It was kind of a little more controlled.
Well, I mean, especially it was more that it was just right at the beginning of the convention, anyway. so-
Right, and we weren't like scrambling to get things set up, like because we were the first people in that room, so we just kind of set up how we wanted.
But I mean, everyone wanted the shop, you know,
Yeah.
right at that time. So it was what it was. Yeah. All right. Well, we will see everybody next Sunday.
All right. Good night,
Good night.
everyone.
See you guys.
Bye, later.